Welcome to the Content Supply Show. This is a show where we bring together entrepreneurs and experts all across the internet, especially those who are bringing tons of value to the world from behind their computer to front of stage. We break down their creative ideas, strategies, and stories that guided them along the journey of entrepreneurship so that we can all learn and be inspired together. Okay, so on the show today, we have Brie Sodano of From Sheep to Shark. She is a financial problem solver, a mom, a wife, and an entrepreneur who is looking to make a big impact on the world through helping with mindset and financial planning. So From Sheep to Shark, we'll get into that a little bit more into the podcast, but that is her business that she started as a result of being burnt out and discontent with the corporate world. And so she sought out to build her own business, her own empire, so to speak. And so with that, she wanted to have a big reach. She has a goal to reach and impact 1 million people, both through mindset and financial problem solving. So before we get into the interview, let's chat Content Supply. Content Supply is a creative content as a service business where online brands and entrepreneurs can subscribe to a monthly supply of custom content to grow their business. So content like video, podcast, image, and blogs. This content is custom built to fit into 3 phases of your marketing experience. So 1, free content on social media, 2, paid ads, and 3, content used for paid programs, memberships, or funnels. We're all limited on time and resources to produce all the content we want and need to support our customers' journey from point A to point Z. Content Supply helps supply the filling of that gap. It's like the PB&J between your bread of your product or service and the bread of your funnel or your conversion tool. Go on over to contentsupply.com to learn more. So now let's get into the interview. We have Brie Sodano on today. Brie, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here with you.
I'm super excited too. So we met, it's been a couple weeks, not too long ago. We both hung out with Julie Stoyan and her husband, Alex. At dinner, talked a lot, and really got to know each other a little bit more. So, Brie, you run a business called From Sheep to Shark, right? You're a financial advisor. Tell me more about how you got into all of this money and financial advising and your journey.
So, I love money. I've always loved money. Like it's the coolest idea to me that you could exchange your energy for the substance that you can get whatever you want with. So after college, I did a decade in the nonprofit sector. And for a little while, I was super happy. And I wasn't making very much money, but I was really happy. So I taught myself how to trade stock options. Like I saw Phil Town speak at a conference, and Phil Town is, he talks about Rule 1 investing, and he's got a book, and he's like a really cool guy. So I learned how to trade stock options. I taught myself. My husband was working nights, and I was like, oh, well, in 15 minutes a week, I could probably make an extra few $1,000s. And so that ended up being partially true. And it ended up being like a little bit stressful for me. The options trading has to be done in the morning, and it's not truthfully 15 minutes a week. So I was just working at a Boys and Girls Club, and as time went on, I just burned out. I was exhausted. I wasn't being paid very well. I just started to really kind of dread going to work. And so one day my mom snapped at me because I was whining for like the 15th time about hating my life. And she was like, you taught yourself how to trade stock options. She was like, that means that you could definitely pass the Series 7. Why don't you go be a financial advisor? And I was like, oh, yeah, that seems like a great idea. And so I got a job with Edward Jones. I applied for the job and I got it. And then as I started my career in finance, I realized that all of what we were doing was like you can make $1 million in 15 minutes. And it just wasn't true. So I was with a couple, I live in Connecticut, and they make about $100,000 a year, and they spent about $100,000, and they were in their 50s and had about $100,000 saved for retirement. And so even though I helped them by getting that money out of the bank where it wasn't doing anything, and I helped them invest it and pick something that was going to make sense for them, it didn't really solve their problem. Like, their problem was in their spending and their ideas about money, and the fact that they were thinking about giving their $100,000 to their kids for down payments on their houses. And I was like, dude, you're gonna be on a real path to cat food, guys. Like, and it was a lot of it was their ideas and just their behaviors. And I wasn't really in a position to be able to offer advice on that because I just started. Some of it was confidence. Like, I just wasn't all the way there. It's like 20 something, like, you're gonna have to cut back your spending and move to a smaller house, like talking to these super adulty grown-ups and stuff. And so at Edward Jones, after a while, I kind of just became a little disenchanted with the corporateness of it. I wanted to be able to offer really cool, like, financial planning, like real deal stuff, like FAFSA planning, student loan stuff, be able to really plan on the deeper stuff in retirement. And at Edward Jones, they only let you get paid to sell investments. So a lot of that planning you're doing for free. And if you're not working with, so that means you have to up and up and up your limits. Like, you have to say, oh, now it takes $1 million to work with me. And I was like, that just didn't really feel good to me. So I went and I worked for an independent firm, and I was doing work on student loans. Well, I was like going into schools to talk to teachers about retirement plans. And then very indignantly, this young woman said to me, she's like, yeah, I'd love to save for retirement, but I have a $900 a month student loan payment. I was, okay, seems like pretty legit. Like, okay, well, maybe you can't eat food and save for retirement and pay your student loans. And since I had the experience at the Boys and Girls Club writing grants, I already spoke all that federal language. So I dug into student loan forgiveness options, like, ferociously. I mean, I spent weeks doing nothing but researching all these federal documents and then calling. I mean, it was a fiasco. But then once I learned how to do it, like, my practice started to really take off. I was getting referrals from people I'd never met. Like, it got weird. Like, I was at the deli counter on a couple occasions buying my ham, and somebody's like, are you the lady that does all the student loans? And I was like, yeah, it was weird. It was super weird for me.
This is why you're the independent firm, but you're taking on things on the side?
No, I mean, I was doing it through the financial planning, because when I went to the independent firm, I could also do planning in a just much more reasonable way. So I was doing that. And then sometimes I didn't have a solution. It's like more of you could be rich in 15 minutes if you just come talk to me about your student loans. And that just really wasn't the truth. Sometimes the forgiveness options didn't work. Sometimes there weren't forgiveness options available. You know, you're talking to like a 22-year-old who's got $100,000, and like, when you don't have a solution, it just, I don't know. So then I started doing college planning, like FAFSA, for people with kids in high school about to go to college. I was like, well, maybe I can make the biggest difference for people if I prevent soul crushing student loan problems. And then that's the first time in people's lives really where all of the stuff hits the fan in money. I was watching the situation kind of unravel for people. And then that's where I started to really understand how complex money is of an issue, and how the mindset side meshes with the practical application. And that's where it started, because I was watching it like literally hit the fan for people, because these are the people coming to see me were people that make good money, and they've made good money. People that value education, people that love their kids, people that wanted to save for school for their kids and didn't do it. So now they're coming to see me kind of in this desperate spot. Like, and again, it was like, it's not, you're going to be rich in 15 minutes. Like, it's like FAFSA planning doesn't work like that. Like, we can move some of the stuff so it shows up in different ways, but you don't get to go to college for free. Like, that's not what I was selling. It's just not, I mean, I wish I was, but I mean, I'd be much more popular, but it's just not the way that it works.
Yeah.
And so that's how so then I started to put together like these 6-month programs. to work with people to really sort it all out. And when I first got started, I wasn't even touching the mindset side of stuff. I was just reworking the money. I'd be like, oh, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this and put these loans together, and you're going to pay this off in this order, and da, da, da. And like my clients were getting fantastic results. And then as I kept going with it, the mindset piece of it became more and more important, because sometimes I was meeting resistance as to why they were or weren't doing things. And sometimes when you're like, you have to just like be grateful. You know, there's some stuff that just really matters when you're trying to get your money stuff together. So I started teaching the mindset stuff. And then that's when my clients started to like really get fantastic results. Like when we got clear on what it was that they wanted, not just out of their money, but like out of their life. Like, well, let's make the money match your life goal. Like if you tell me you want to travel to all over the world on a regular basis, your financial plan is going to be different than if you want to pay for your kids' college completely, is going to be different than if you want to buy a second house. You know what I mean? Like all these, the financial pieces of it are different for all those things.
So how do you approach with mindset and money? Obviously, like one deals more on a personal level. Money is personal, but it's also, it's something that has more metrics involved. It has more kind of fact-based. Mindset is a little bit more like up the clouds in some ways, because it's different by person. Money's more of like a concrete thing. How do you approach that with someone when their mindset is way off and they're not going to get the results they need? What's kind of your first step? Are you pretty blunt with them to be like, you need to alter your mindset in order to get the results you want, or are you more soft with it?
At first, I'm a little soft, and the reason is, so I have a pyramid of wealth that I don't have a visual for you guys for, but on the bottom level is when people feel like they're drowning. They're going through their savings, they're going deeper into debt, and and money causes stress, anxiety, worry. The next level up is paycheck to paycheck. The feelings are pretty much the same. It's just whether or not they're digging deeper, or whether or not they're but either way, the perception, how they feel, really matters. And it's kind of like being in a hole. Like they don't see the whole big picture because they're very limited in their perception. Like you can't worry about your life's purpose if you didn't pay the bills this month. Like it's just not there for you. Like you're not ready to see it just yet. So the first thing that I do with clients is, so the third level up is making financial progress. So the thing about progress is that it doesn't feel real fantastic. It's like when you went on a diet and you went to the gym, but you're not quite in your skinny pants yet. You're like doing all the stuff, but you haven't really, like the payoff isn't there yet. You're like, I ate lettuce today. How come I don't look like Marilyn Monroe yet? Like that's kind of the progress. But once people are at progress and they can see that their tight cash flow is a temporary situation, then you can start to talk about those other things. So at first, like when you're in the bottom two levels, the first things that we do is start to work on like gratitude, because it literally changes your perspective. Like if you feel like you don't have money for something, you'll never have enough. There's nothing you can ever do to have enough, because even if you had $1 billion, you still won't have time to enjoy all the things that the world has to offer you. So if you focus on what you do have and you feel like grateful for it, it changes your perspective. It really does. And so like I start to introduce ideas from like The Secret or the Law of Attraction type stuff. And when I first started this, I mean, I thought that stuff was like a little bit of hoo-hoo crap. And as I'm going with it, I see that knowing what it is that you want and focusing on that really, really works for people. So we usually start with clarity on where it is that we're going. And then we start to clean up the mess, because you have to take care of the practical side of things to be able to get those full mindset shifts. And then after people are at the point of making progress, then we can dig deeper into the mindset stuff. So those first levels is really just an introduction. You can't get people that aren't making ends meet, surrender their desires up to the universe, like, for magical things to happen. They're like, no, I need to pay this. I need to get this stuff taken care of first. So it's kind of different levels of where people are at. So that's part of what I do, is you can only give people as much as they can handle to actually get the change. Like
Yeah, well, and it goes back to something you and I talked about recently too, and it's how you define success for yourself. And that's an amazing place to start. It's kind of the element of beginning with the end in mind with financial planning or life planning, mindset planning. Is success is different by person. For some people, it could be literally just like monetary wealth. It could be, I want to have the biggest house, the biggest car, or the nicest car. It's not the biggest car. And I want to have lots of money. Other people, it could be, a great family life, lots of kids, or the ability to be able to travel. It's, or spiritual life. I think it's different by person. And I think it sounds like, and what we talked about is each person's got to define what success looks like for them, and then approach the mindset game and the financial game. So that way there's an element of gratitude involved, and there's the element of you can be happy because your financial goals match up with your mindset goals. And you don't have to have the 24 hours of the 15 days to $1 million, and you can just measure up well to your mindset goals of success.
I don't think too many people really want the biggest house or the fanciest car. I don't think that's what really drives, at least the people coming to see me. I'm sure there's some people where that is their success. It's always something more. So for some people, it really ends up being freedom. For other people, it ends up being security. For some people, it ends up being happiness or love. And money is an ingredient for all those things and sufficient on its own for none of them. Like money contributes to happiness for sure. Like money contributes to love. Like you have to have money to feed and clothe and shelter the people that you love in your life. So it contributes to that, but you can't, like money in and of itself doesn't provide love. So so you're right. It's different for everybody. So all my clients come in and they're kind of starting in the same spot, but we're all ending up a spot that's a little bit different. And so that's like really where my practice differs, because when I was selling investments, when I was working for the independent firm, financial advisor's job is very much to look at your life through the lens of how do I get you to retirement with a portfolio you could draw 4.5% off of without running out. That's their pretty much main objective. So when you start looking at it a little differently, a lot more options open up.
Completely agree. And so with this process, what led you to choose From Sheep to Shark as your brand name, and what does that mean?
I think my brother might actually get some credit for this. When I was realizing what I wanted, I'm like, we as a society we're all raised to be very sheepish. Like we're raised, you go to school, you get a good job, you go work for somebody else, you put 10% into your retirement savings, you get the company match. And if you do everything just right, then you can be financially independent at age 65, and go for walks in the woods with your grandkids and stuff. And that's pretty much the message that we get about money. It's like, debt is bad. It's pay off your mortgage first. It's this idea that there's just one way to get there. And so the thing that I was looking for is people who are the self-aware sheep, people that like wake up one day and realize, holy crap, man, I did all this stuff. And they look around and they're like, and this isn't what I wanted. This is when I started college, this isn't where I meant to go. Here I am stuck in the rat race. And they would look around one day and they're like, I'm a sheep and I don't want to be a sheep. What happened? And so that was it. And then I think sharks is just, some of it I'm sure is like an idea from like the Shark Tank, where you come in and like you learn how money works and you're an investor, and it's very like
confidence and
like very exciting. But I also think there's an element of freedom and like self-reliance that comes with it. So that's it. It was like, how do you get people to go from the ideas that keep us very sheep-like in our money management to like, no, how do we feast? How do we be ferocious with this? How do we get what we want and not just, because when you're in that sheep category, I mean, it's like a state of being constantly taken advantage of, kind of. It's like you have your hand out for your paycheck, you show up every day, like you get fleeced, everything seems to be just not like you're in total control of it.
Mhm.
And so that was it.
Well, and I think there's a balance. So like, I think there's strengths with kind of being a sheep and a shark.
Yeah.
I find the choice in imagery or animals very fitting, because it's very, it's easy to associate, sheepish to sharkish, and what that means financially, but also otherwise.
Yeah.
So let's kind of put these things in a bow a little bit, because obviously this is a content related podcast. This is so we can talk about strategy, we can talk about how to build brands and how content plays a role in that. But I like to dig deep into what, like, the brands that feature, what they represent, what their stories are. And so I love what we got into and talking about this, and I find it really valuable. And I think the content that can be used as a result of what you offer from sheep to shark can evolve in so many ways. Like, so what are you doing right now with, like, what's your content plan, so to speak, or how are you using content to promote or to help inspire others around this mindset and also financial planning?
So far I've been super fortunate in that my Facebook page is working. Like it's busy. So I make a mix of posts and videos, live videos. And as time goes on, I'm expecting to get some of these things a little bit more professional and cleaned up, and I'll probably make a YouTube channel and maybe even a podcast. But right now, that's all my marketing is really in that way. And actually, that's part of why I hired Julie, because I was like, I need a better way to get this stuff out, because I make an awful lot of content and people really like it. Like, a lot of times when people call me, they're like, oh, I went on your Facebook page and stalked all your videos, and I like what you're saying about this and that. And so it's kind of nice that they've already started to have the conversation, because then they come to me in a better spot to hear some of the things that I talk about. So I'm not the best at planning. I just kind of do it when it speaks to me. Like when something comes up and I'm like, or I get a lot of questions about one thing or another, then I'll make a video about it. I want to be better. I want to be more organized.
Well, I think the importance of content in general is to first and foremost be present and to show up. And it sounds like you do that. And you do. I mean, you look at your Facebook page and you do see your different posts. Like, you've got a lot of times it is just like a copy or text-based post, or you said there's Facebook Lives, and there are blogs. And so I think there is a great deal of being present and showing up online, and sharing your thoughts, your expertise, and because I'm sure the sharks in your head are always swimming around and wanting to share different things.
Yeah, and on the social media, it's much easier to talk about mindset or problems than it is to talk about actual financial strategies, because there's a certain amount of expertise that goes into financial planning. So if you get too deep into the practical side of things, I kind of want to stay away from really big blanket statements. Like a lot of the big names in finance make these sweeping statements about what is good or what is bad financially. And as a financial planner, that infuriates me, because I'm like, and I'll just say this for example. So Susie Orman takes a hard stance, for instance, on annuities. And in the industry, annuities are definitely oversold. And that's true. But to blame that on the tool it hurts people. So, when somebody really should have an annuity, but Susie Orman told them it was a bad idea, that they should, for some people it's a good idea, and that's why those products are out there. So taking a hard stance on the practicality of things, I try to stay away from a little bit, because I think that financial plans need to be custom the same way your medical plans need to be custom, like the same way all the major areas of your life needs to fit for what it is that you're going for. And so I try to keep it more on like the mindset piece of it, because I think that really helps people too. It's like a big piece of what I do.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you put the mindset in place, and then the financial planning falls into place afterwards. I think making the financial planning custom afterwards would just make more sense, because people are aligned up here more so than like on the books and things like that. So then how can people find you on Facebook and your website exclusively? That's where you exist online, and you share most of your content?
Yeah, Facebook. And recently somebody talked me into doing Instagram. So I have an Instagram now.
Yes.
I'm
Nice.
probably going to take a picture of this and then put it on there. Yeah, but Instagram is just pictures. Yeah, mostly it's the website or my Facebook page is really where all the good stuff is.
What's your next big step with the business?
Oh, I want to help 1 million people get their money stuff together. And I literally want to change the game in the way that we look at money. Like, I want the voice of money to go from you just be a better sheep to there is more than one way to skin a cat, my friends, and you should learn how money works so that way you can have exactly what you want out of life with some practical and mindset applications. Like, it's a big goal.
I think 1 million people. It's possible. I think that's a great goal. It's a really great goal, and I think the reach can be even bigger. The fact that you can branch out and send that messaging across the internet, across the audiences there.
Yeah, that's a huge part of why I'm doing this, because digital, like the tech stuff scares me. Like when I have to send an email out of my Infusionsoft, like I'm terrified. I'm like, oh my, gives me like, I have to like pay somebody to help me do it. I'm like, I can't even, it's so awful. Can I just give you the words? And so that's the agreement that we kind of have going on right now. But I want to be able to, because then it brings the cost down too. You know what I mean? It makes the service that I offer more accessible to people. One day I was like thinking about it, and I was thinking that Rachel Ray has totally transformed my life. Like, I got married when I was in my early 20s, and I didn't know how to cook. And I certainly didn't know how to cook anything good. Like, my husband jokes. He was like, when we first moved in together, he was like, if we had gone another 3 or 4 months of you not being able to cook, like we ate Hamburger Helper for like 6 months. He was like, if we ate Hamburger Helper for another month, like, I don't know that we'd still be together. And so I'm like, Rachel Ray totally taught me how to cook. It's drastically enhanced my life. And she's never met me. Like, she never came to my kitchen and showed me how to do these things one-on-one. I learned from watching her show. So I was like, I could really do this without me physically like coming into contact with these people. Like, if I have a platform, I could help so many people without them having ever like come in physical contact with me. So that was kind of where I was like really interested and willing to take the risk to do this digitally,
Completely agree. And I think I love the branding of From Sheep to Shark though. I mean, I think there's power and there's so much underpinnings to what that communicates. And I'm super excited to see how things evolve for you. And I'm excited to get to know you more.
I'm excited too. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. And I love the day that I decided that it was going to be From Sheep to Shark, because I hired a marketing, I outsourced my marketing for a while. And we were doing this thing where it was my name, Brie Sodano, like financial planning. And I had this really cool website. And then I was like, I went with it because I was like, can I say From Sheep to Shark? Can I say that out loud? Are people going to hate me? Like, am I going to call people sheep? And then they were going to be like, F you, lady. So I finally just decided midway through my branding, I was like, no, this isn't right. Like, it just has to be From Sheep to Shark. And if they're offended, they're not going to be my clients. Like, that's just going to be it. That's it. Yeah, I have a lot of personality. Like, you'll see in my videos, I swear sometimes. I like say things that are blunt. So I'm like, if the word sheep offends you, you probably shouldn't hang out with me.
So how do you, to kind of sum this all up too, how do you define success? We talked about that. How do you define success simply?
Like, for me personally?
Yeah.
For me, success is helping people. That's where I get a lot of my joy, a lot of my fulfillment. I love working with my clients. I really do. Like for me, figuring out the money piece and then mixing it with the mindset piece and seeing their results is really how I gauge success, is in their results. You know, on my own personal level, I mean, I want to travel the world and eat cheese. That's, I mean, and I could pretty much do that now. So I mean, monetarily, I'm successful, right? Like I already had, like I'm already happy. So it's the successes, being able to give more, like being able to make a bigger contribution, I guess.
The million people.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a high bar, but that's where I see myself being successful, is when, you know, people don't just, when they look at money a little bit differently, not like a hold back, but like this is a tool and I'm going to learn how to use it.
Awesome. Well, you said at one point there's so many ways to skin a cat. Maybe we can start using there's so many ways to shear a sheep.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's more than one way to shear a sheep. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh, Dallin. Yes, I love it. Thank you. It's like a little nugget. I'm excited.
Yeah, good. Well, and I don't think you can say the same about a shark. I mean, there's so many ways to, what do you do with the shark? You can't.
They're protected species. It's really frowned upon to skin them. You can't even make soup anymore. It's not okay.
Brie, it was a pleasure. We'll talk soon, I know.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
So that about wraps it up for the show today. Thank you so much for listening. The fact that you're able to drop into this conversation, hopefully be inspired through the stories and ideas shared here, is pretty awesome. So I'm a huge fan of relationships and getting to know more people. So if you have thoughts about the show, want to leave a review even, have questions about Content Supply, or just want to connect anyway, you can find me across the socials at Dallin Need. And of course, go on over to contentsupply.com and check it out. Thanks again. I'm so glad you're here, and I can't wait to share more here at Content Supply. See ya.